Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
All right, welcome to our office meeting. Can't wait to get started today. We have an awesome person over here that's going to teach us. Obviously, we were just talking about with Martin that he's been Vince's lender. I don't think I ever did a loan for you, but we did several transactions when I was in the Cerritos office. I was there for 15 years, and with Bruce Mulhern, I know we did quite a few loans during that time. And I can't wait. I know when he was, when I went to see him 2 weeks ago at the Board of Realtors in Downey, I don't think we had any chairs. I think we had people standing up. And so the information he brings is awesome. So for those of you who are thinking about, how do I get started? What do I do? Whatever, today in this video, you'll learn from the best. The video will be uploaded in YouTube and do a YouTube channel, Realty Executives All Cities. Please pay attention to that and learn it. And one thing I want to mention, on the 21st August, 21st, 22nd, 28th, and 29th, probate is back. I'm bringing Mr. Joe Ramos for the probate process again. So anyone who didn't take it has the opportunity to take it. For special pricing, talk to me about it or call him directly. So for now, without further ado, please bring to the stage Mr. Robert Fragoso.
How are you?
Good.
So I'll give you a little bit of background on myself just so you kind of understand where my mindset comes from. I started the business when I was 17 years old, so this is my 30th year in the business now, and I'm pretty much like dedicated to the investment side. And part of the reason that I did that was that I was looking, when you're 17, you're kind of looking for easy ways to make money. And what I liked about the investment side is that you can work with one client over and over and over again and sell them more properties. And so I always look for these kind of niches in the marketplace. So a little bit of background, got started really, I guess what's considered wholesaling now. I didn't know that's what it was called back then. Started fixing and flipping houses, and then shortly got into syndicating apartment buildings. But this was in the 90s, and so there was the vacancy rate was really high. You could buy apartment buildings really cheap. So we put together a fund of investors and then started buying those apartment buildings, fixing them up, and really we're flipping them is kind of what we were doing. And shortly after that, my investor did ask me hey, we've done well with you, what do you want to do next? Got into the hard money business together with a few other people. We started a company, what became actually I think the largest hard money company in the country. I was bought out in 2014, and so that was the biggest part of it. But as part of that, we also bought a trustee sale, certainly help our clients grow their business. And one of the things that we would do is we would look at our clients and say, okay, how can we grow our business with our clients? And so that's kind of easier to do on the investment side, because you can see people and help them scale, and as they make more money, their loyalty stays with you, and you can grow your business at the same time. So we created this kind of win-win, which was always the kind of basis for almost everything that we did. So been a part of, 10,000 plus transactions already. And so now I'm it took a couple years off, got back in, had some friends who wanted me to partner with them on flipping, and that's kind of how we got started. So that's a little bit of background, since we're kind of a good group here. If you guys have questions while I'm going through this, I'm going to kind of cram, 30 years worth of experience and try to cram it down to about an hour here. And so if I'm rushing through and you have questions for something that might relate to like what you're doing, just raise your hand, and I may repeat the question for the camera. But I want to make sure that you guys get the most that you can out of this versus me just talking, right? So look, just as a quick poll, how many of you guys have worked with investors already? Good. And REOs or anything like that? How many of you guys have actually flipped a house? All right, good. So one of the first things, let me see what screen we got here. All right, so one of the first things that I think that working with investors has helped me is being very creative in how you structure opportunities. And so what I would implore you to do is not to look at as every, let's say, listing appointment that you go to, not to necessarily look at it with just that one tunnel vision in mind. And look at that as an opportunity, because keep in mind that the people who are trying to sell that house, they have their own motivations, right? And obviously you want to find out what those motivations are, but at the same time, if it's a property that is flippable for some reason or another, either it needs a lot of work, look at that as an opportunity as well, rather than just trying to get the listing. And so if you look at yourself, because we're all independent contractors, right? And so our business is real. Nobody, I don't think, nobody gets a salary here, right? So you got to make your own money. So if you're looking at all of these things as an opportunity, it'll be easier for you to spot more opportunities. And if you're in touch with what's going on in the marketplace, it makes you a better agent, right? So, and what I mean by that is this, is that every time that the market shifts a little bit, it usually closes one opportunity and opens up another opportunity. And so if you're in touch with the marketplace and you're at the pulse there, and you can see that, then you're gonna make a lot more money as you go throughout your career. And so I'll give you some examples that, like Martine and I, we were doing a lot of the duplexes and stuff like that, where they were buying for a while in South Central, everyone, and they still do this, but they were buying houses, they were adding a second unit. Now they mostly tear it down and build much larger. But the opportunity was, hey, look, you can buy these houses and these fixer houses at a pretty good price, and if you add on another 1,500 square feet, right, the cost to build back then was 55, 68 bucks a square foot.
Bucks.
Let's say it was $80 a square foot, but it would sell for $400 a square foot. I mean, that's a lot of equity that you're creating. So if you're cognizant of all of the opportunities, and not just from a standpoint of adding on or building, but just sometimes, hey, there's the buyers here want a ready move-in house, and they're willing to pay a premium, that you can help your clients actually make more money. And so that's kind of where a lot of it has gone now for us, is in this world where it's gotten more competitive, and you've got all the like Redfin people and I was going to say Purple Bricks, but they're gone, right? But you've got all of these different companies that are trying to do the 1%, and they've competed on rates. It's really helped to or hurt and compressed your marketplace a little bit more. So the way to combat that is to sit there and spot the opportunity and say, hey, okay, we're going to make more money here by helping our clients make more money, and possibly at the same time, you're making more money. Does that make sense? So I'll give you some different scenarios. When you're looking for the opportunity, and not so much just to either buy, I don't look to just buy the property, right? So that's the first goal. But if they say, hey, they want more, what I'm trying to do is inject myself in as many transactions that are going to happen with or without me as I can. If I can add value, then I hope to be a part of that transaction. And so if you're an agent out there and you're meeting with people and the house needs some work, and it doesn't need a lot of work. A lot of people think of fixers as like these hoarder houses that you walk through and they're terrible. It doesn't have to be that bad. And so I've got an example here before I'm going to jump through because I'm not seeing this in front of me. Some of the reasons that people sell for lower prices is, and this is, I put the top 3 ones up here. There's a lot of sellers that don't want to have open houses. They just don't want people going through their things. When you talk about the silent generation, and these are the generation who's now in their 70s, the pre-baby boomers. A lot of them, if you look at their houses, they're actually pretty nice from the outside, but you walk inside and they're really bad. And so what happens is that they're really embarrassed when they go to sell their house now, because their neighbors have always seen them like, oh wow, you've got the greenest lawn, you've got this. And you walk inside, and just through years of living there, they've now become kind of this de facto hoarder, right? Because they've got so much stuff. And I can't tell you how many times that we buy homes and the people are like, look, we just don't want our neighbors coming through. And that embarrassment factor is a huge factor that they don't want to have them. And in many cases, their kids are already grown. They don't see their kids anymore. Their kids now have grandkids already. And so there's a disconnect there. So if you can help them really attain or keep more of their equity, there's an opportunity there as well. And the last thing is the speed, obviously. So this is a case study that I'm just going to show real quick. And the reason I picked this house, this is here in Lakewood. And this particular house was on Lakewood Boulevard. Now, it wasn't a heavy fixer. You drive by this house, and it looks like it's in pretty nice condition. This was a divorce situation, and the guy wanted more money for his house than we were willing to pay, or what it would have sold for. We thought it would have sold for about $450 in its current condition. Outside, this is a guy who he just paid $30,000 to paint the outside of his house. He got sold by a contractor that, hey, this is solar paint. It's going to keep your house cooler, all this stuff, and he paid us $28,000 change that he actually paid. We've all painted a house, right?
Solar painting. That's a new one.
I
never heard of solar painting.
So
under the sun.
So so this particular house, really, we didn't even really paint the whole outside of it. and this is kind of what I want to point out, is that it's not a serious fixer, but we helped this guy go from like a 450, maybe 460 value to it ultimately sold for 655. And so really we added some pop to the colors. We redid the landscaping. If you notice between this picture and the other picture, the garage was kind of converted into a semi-ADU here, right? And so we got it essentially ADU ready, but didn't complete the process because he was under a very tight timeline. So all the repairs here took under 35 days, I think 32 days is what we did it. And so it's very quick. This was the kitchen, kind of how he had it, and this is post him already. The agent had worked with him had been working with him for a few weeks trying to get him to clean up. This is his thing about like, it's pretty clean now. And so this was the scenario, so this is the after, but if you look at the befores and the afters, what I like to point out is we didn't change the flooring. He had good flooring, right? It got polished up. We kept the kitchen cabinets, and really what we did is we got rid of this cabinet here and dropped in some pendant lining and then changed out the old dated kind of, he already had granite countertops, but it was a little bit more dated. So we changed it out to a quartz, changed the backsplash as well, and then same appliances, we added handles on the cabinets, but it looks like a much more updated kitchen, which didn't take a lot of money. The biggest value that we did to this house is he had converted an old bedroom into like this oversized laundry room. So he only had 3 bedrooms instead of 4. And so the smart thing as an agent, you guys know your market when you're looking at, especially in Lakewood, most of the houses are 3 bedrooms. And so the 4 bedrooms get a premium. So how could we create, so we moved that laundry room, what you can't see is we moved it back into the kitchen, went back to a bedroom there, it was legally a bedroom already. But just moved the plumbing around and changed that so he would have a 4 bedroom instead of a 3 bedroom. And that helped kind of boost the value there. So then went to, this is the living room, I'll just go through this. Staging helps, right? If you notice.
Yeah. It's
So-
huge.
So here's the master bath. You'll notice we didn't do much, right? But we did reglaze. So this had kind of odd yellow and purple like tiles in it. We just reglazed it. Doesn't cost a lot of money, and it's quick. Same cabinet. We just kind of repaired it, but changed out the countertops and lighting and so forth. And it just gives it a whole new feel. So when a new buyer is coming through, we're trying to appeal to that new buyer that's willing to pay the premium. So backyard was kind of a big change. The backyard was just kind of dirt and had been neglected. One of my signatures is barbecues and movie screens in the backyard. For Father's Day a few years ago, my kids gave me a movie screen for our backyard, and we use it like during summer. All the kids come over and all that stuff, and it's really fun. So I started dropping it into homes. It doesn't cost a lot of money, right? I mean, this whole setup is maybe, I don't know, I think between the movie screen and the electrical and everything, maybe you're spending an extra $500 or $1,000 depending on how far you're going. But the appeal of it, what it does is it gives you all this extra outdoor space, right? So if you have more entertainment space, it feels like you have more square footage, right? And so if they have more space that they can use and really live in, then the house has a premium. Plus, it's one of, I'm going to say 2 houses in Lakewood, because the other one I did, that has a movie screen in the backyard. It's built in, you press a button, it goes up, it goes down, and and it's not terribly expensive. Fire pit, this is a gas fire pit that this is blocking. We added the patio so that really involved and kind of, we're in an area with great weather here in Southern California. So if you can use it, and you're comparing houses, and one of them has more entertainment oriented backyard towards versus the other homes, that might be the house that you want, right? And so if you're looking to, what do most people do after they buy a house? They want to show it off to their friends, right? So this is a way that you help them show it off. And so we also added music throughout the house. So it had music on the inside, outside, and just really kind of, again, it's things that don't cost a lot of money, but it's things that the other homes don't have that give the perception of a higher value for your home. And so that's kind of one of the things. So the reason I showed this one is basically it wasn't a heavy fixer, right? It wasn't, but we were able to add, $175,000 of value to this particular house versus someone who goes through and just like this guy who paid $28,000 to paint. Someone who's going through there, your buyers don't know what stuff should cost. And your buyers are going to go through there and they're like, okay, God, we got to do this. And it's overwhelming for a lot of them.
Right.
And for the people that want to pay that premium, who just want to move in, they're not gonna see that, wow, this is only, I think we spent 30,000 or 35,000 or something like that on that whole house. And so, they're not gonna see all of the, like the actual cost. They're gonna see their cost plus the contractor's profit. And then it's gonna take time away from them having to do that. It's frustrating. What do they say about divorces? It's usually, it's renovations, money, or adultery, right? So so they can stay away from that.
Did you recoup your cost after the sale? How's that work? I mean,
So the
you
way-
put money in there to help him sell the property to get the max value,
Right.
and then you recouped your costs out of escrow from the sale?
Yeah, so that's a great, so his question is how did we structure the deal so that we would recoup our money? So in this particular scenario, we worked out a basis with the client. He was going through a divorce. We had to go and get it approved through the divorce court. And what happened was that we said, okay, here's the basis. And the court approved it and said, okay, here's the wife. So the ex-wife who didn't want to do the deal, she didn't want to renovate it. They said, okay, you're going to guarantee the ex-wife X amount of dollars. You have 90 days to pay her off. And so we finished the repairs in 30. So we didn't have to actually put out that money, although we were prepared to do that if we had to do that. But what happened was that the structure of the deal was we advanced the money for the repairs. He retained ownership. We got paid back. So the basis was I don't remember, it was 425 or 455 plus whatever the cost of the repairs. So that became the new stepped up basis. And then we split the profits above what he was paying his ex-wife. So his ex-wife, I think, got 90. She would have ended up with 160 or something like that. So I heard that at the end she was a little pissed, right? But such is life. And she didn't want to gamble with us because she thought, no, you're not going to be able to get that. We pro forma'd the sale at 610 and ended up with 655.
Versus the 4 something if he hadn't fixed it
Right.
up.
So keep in mind, so one of the things when you're talking to homeowners is that you want to do is you want to essentially underestimate all of the values and overestimate the cost. Because if you're just like this guy who paid $28,000 for his paint job, right? What happens is that they're not in that business. So if I think we told them the repairs were going to be like 50-something thousand, so we were under budget. And then we thought it would sell for 600 to 610 because it was on Lakewood Boulevard. So one of the things that the offset to being on the main street, and it had like, how Lakewood has the small street next to the big street? We didn't know what that was going to do to the value, so we were more conservative. There was not a 655 comp, it was a high comp for the area. But we thought, okay, being on the main street, we're going to discount like 7-10% off the value. We tricked out the backyard to offset the fact, and we added sound so that we knew that, listen, this house is going to have more things than all the other houses. Someone is going to say, I don't really care about the street, and say, but I want this house, and that's exactly what happened. So it's part of kind of coming up with the game plan up front, is you're trying to help your client maximize what, this is equity that he had already accumulated over the years, right? But couldn't access it because the house didn't show well. So by helping them show that, the agent then got a 6% commission, plus we also split our profits with the agent, right? So when essentially the agent made, I'm going to say 2 times the commission they would have probably made had they just sold the property. And so it was a win-win. The client's super happy. And what ends up happening is this, would you agree that people of a certain age have friends of that same certain age, right? Whether they're young or they're old, it doesn't really matter. Everybody congregates with their peers. And so what happens now is you start to get more and more referrals because they end up outperforming even their thoughts. And so we've had scenarios already where we've done this, that we've gotten referrals from their friends who also want to sell to maximize their opportunities. So that's kind of what you're trying to do, is really brand yourself in a niche that is slightly different. And so we always try to buy it first because it's easier for us, right? And we don't have to worry about having them, because partnerships are funny, right? Sometimes you go into partnership with someone and some of the questions that I get asked is, well, what if they decide, wow, you did such a great job, I just want to stay, right? And so you can usually weed those out, but there's contracts that we have. We secure the funds. We put basically a loan on their property because we lend them the money to do it.
Secure.
Yeah, so we secure it with a loan. We also have a contract, you know, it's basically a design contract for us. The agent that's involved gets a listing agreement, right? So there's really a multiple part to this transaction to make it work. You also get a feel from the people when they, you know, like this guy, he had granite countertops. His brother's like, why are you letting him rip off the countertops? You just did the countertops like a few years ago. He's like, look, it's not my house anymore. He goes, they know what it's gonna sell for, like how it's gonna sell for the highest number. Let them do their thing. And that's one of the things that you have, you'll get a feel. Now, if the guy said, no, I don't want that countertop, I want this countertop, then you have to think like, well, why do you care? You're not gonna live here anymore, right? So that's indicative of a person that might wanna stay at that house, right? If they're saying, no, don't paint this color, paint this color, we're just remodeling their house, right? So that's, you don't wanna do that. So you get a feel from talking to people as to exactly if it's a real scenario. Most of these people, like he was already looking for places, he moved out of the state to Arizona, super nice guy, and you know, and that's really who you're working with. Like we're doing some, it's a very similar scenario, inheritance that we've got another one that's going on right now, and I think she could have maybe sold her house for $850 in the condition that it was. We're getting an offer today for $1 million, I think $1,150,000 or $1,180,000, something like that. And again, they retained ownership. That house, we put 100 into it, and so she'll end up making an extra like 75,000. You know, for some people that might not be worth it. For someone that's now their retirement income, in addition to what they're getting from the house, every little bit helps. You know, she was very, very happy to do that. We've done it where people, it's lighter repairs, and they're making an extra 20 or 25,000. As an investor, I'm a little, you know, sometimes you're out of touch with that, and you're just like, I just sell it, just be done.
Right.
But to someone who, that's half of what they make in a year, and you can do that over a 30 or 60 day period, they're like, done. That's absolutely do that.
Going back to that first house, you were saying there was a listing agent already involved, right? So at what point do you come in?
Okay, so the question was, there was already a listing agent involved, and at what point we came in. So in this case, the listing agent is actually the one who brought us in. And so the listing agent was actually competing with another agent who was a friend of the wife, and the house hadn't been listed yet. And so they were both competing for the listing. The other agent was actually saying, no, you can sell it for $600 today, just like the way it is. And when it came down to it, here, you know, this was a court scenario. So we had to prove, like, and the judge was pretty like, you can't use this comp where it's beautiful with this house the way it sits. He understood, like the judge was like a sharp, you know, they're smart enough to figure out this is bullshit, right? So we sat there and just, he said, look, will you guarantee the wife this much? Yes, it was a no-brainer for us, right? And because she was gonna get at least that much if it sold for what we were thinking it would sell for as is. And then have, you know, like what I didn't show was there was like open electrical outlets, there was things like that when you go to finance it, you know those are gonna be conditions for the repair. And when you've got a seller that has no money, it's tough for them to do anything. So now you as the agent are having to put this money anyway. We're just saying, hey, look, let's put a little bit more money in and profit from it. So the goal, number one, is always to try to buy it. This is plan B, right? But plan B works really well because what you're trying to do is always figure out their motivation. And if their motivation is just to get out fast, that points towards trying to buy the house, not necessarily just trying to like JV with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I hope I answered. All right, so
Robert, I have a question.
Sure.
On the deal side, when you structure it, did I hear correctly that you were ready to pay off the wife if push comes to shove
Sure,
in the transaction?
Well, okay, so yeah, the short answer is yes,
Okay.
right? The long answer is our yield is higher with the least money that we put out, right? So we don't necessarily offer all this up front because we're a business as well, and we want to maximize our yield. So the least amount of money that we can put out, and with the maximum amount of like income that comes back, increases our yield. With that said, the other one that I mentioned where they inherited the 810 buy or basis, I should say, she wanted $250,000 so she can go out and buy a house, right? So they had the house free and clear. So we said, okay, that's a no-brainer for us. Like, we'll give you the 250. In fact, we ended up cashing her out 300, right? And then we put in the 100 for repairs. So really, she got 400, and we lent her the 400, and we're fixing up the house, and she's about to sell it now and make more money. So, but she got to move on to her new place already, and it was kind of a win-win. So if there's equity, there's a lot of options. If there's no equity, you're limited on some options. But really, in a lot of cases, you're trying to figure out how to make this work for them as well as for you. And if you're kind of the connector here, you know, you should get paid for that. Does that make sense? Okay, so
This structure will work with a probate situation as well, once the administrator's been assigned to the
yeah. So his question is, would this work with a probate situation? And the short answer is yes, right? If a probate scenario where they have full authority, right, then they've got the full authority to be able to agree to this. If they've got partial authority, then you've got to go to court and get that approved.
Okay.
So, but it works in most scenarios. A lot of scenarios with like the probates, I will tell you that oftentimes, you know, like you can buy just the estate and be done quicker, and then you become the heir. So you step into that, you just get it approved by the court,
Right.
and so you can buy, you know, many times you're buying the entire estate for, you know, much less than you would, let's say, the house itself. And that's, you know, in some cases that's the only asset. In other cases it's
The case I'm thinking about is it's the only asset, but it's way below market value because of the condition that it's in right now. So it could be an opportunity for myself or to do something like this in terms of helping them structure a deal where they can get the most value out of it.
Yeah, so I would utilize this. So what he's saying is that he's got a scenario where, you know, there's a probate that he's talking to, and the house is going to sell for significantly undervalued because of the condition, that this creates now an opportunity for both you and them to not just profit, but if you're helping them make more money in their estate, usually there's a certain amount of thanks that comes along with that in the form of, you know, some sort of monetary compensation. So quick starts, I just want to mention that, you know, if you're looking to find properties, we talked about that, let's see, potential, always look at what the upside value is. So we used to study what homes would resell for that we didn't purchase. So we were competing to buy something, someone else saw a different value. We want to go back and we would trace those and see, okay, what did they see that we didn't see? Maybe they saw a higher value at the end. Maybe they end up adding on to it. Maybe they tear it down and build brand new. What did we miss? This type of homework, it's kind of, you get obsessed, right? But you don't know what you don't know. And so the problem is, most places don't teach you this until it's really mainstream, and then you've missed the boat. So you've got to do a lot of this homework in whatever areas that you're working in to figure out what's the best opportunity here. And there's a lot of opportunities in LA right now, because every time there's a new ordinance or a change, or, you know, an ordinance is coming to fruition where I don't know if you guys know about the soft story program? No? Okay, so there's a program in the city of LA that started roughly 5 years ago, and it's for commercial, it's for mostly apartment buildings, and it's called their soft story ordinance. And so what it is have you ever seen those, like it's a carport that's underneath a second story, right? You've seen those where cars park underneath. Okay, so if you remember during the Northridge earthquake, some of those just collapsed. So this program says, okay, hey, owners of all these apartment buildings that have this type of carport, you need to reinforce that. And so it's not a $500 repair. You're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars depending on the size of the building. So some of these owners don't have the money, or really just don't want to do it. They've owned the building for 30 years. There's some things that happen at the 30-year mark. Their depreciation is done, right? So they're no longer writing off depreciation. And at the same time, now they've got a scenario where they're faced with having to either borrow money or put in money to this asset. And if they've owned it for 30 years, my guess is they're probably in their 60s, 70s, 80s or something, right? Or it's already in a family trust. And, you know, it's the headache. It's the headache factor, right? We get paid to solve headaches. That's really the bottom line. And so this is a potential headache where if you're looking to get into, this is a list that the city of LA puts out, tells you, yes, they've done the repairs, no, they haven't done the repairs, that you can just go on to LADBS and download yourself. And, you know, now you've got a list of things that are potential fixtures, right? Sure. And the benefit I love apartment buildings, because flipping apartment buildings is great, because you can buy it here and you're paying almost full value for it, and you increase the rents, and you sell it on the same cap rate, and you just made money. So, and then if you couple that with repairs that have to be done that back off, that creates a discount, that makes it even a better deal. So there's opportunities like that come up very regularly, or where the city, if you're going to, like, let's say your city council meetings, you'll hear about, hey, they're gonna rezone this, or talk to your zoning department, and if they're rezoning an area because of, like, my example will be Hollywood. Hollywood, when they built the railway, right, or the subway, they upzoned that whole area. So if you look at Hollywood from where it was 10 years ago, there's nothing but high rises now, because all of those things went from, C2 to C3, or they went from R3 to R4 or R5. So now all of a sudden you've got these high rises that were built, and the people that owned those properties that were just smaller properties, they got essentially a gift in equity, because now the developable value of that superseded the value of just the asset that was there. And so if you can buy those, and there's opportunities all over, in most cities like that, as long as you know that in your piped in. And so this whole knowledge is power thing is very true, especially when it comes to figuring out what the value is, or what the opportunity is. And so that's what really, the whole purpose of my talk is to get you ingrained into learning how to spot opportunity. I'm obsessed with it, because I geek out. So this is all I've ever done. I think I'm unemployable anywhere else, because this is what I love to do, right? So, market on existing listings or properties. Okay, so this is, so when you're marketing, when you have an existing listing, I'm not saying, hey, go and try to steal somebody's listing. We all know that's not ethical, right? But if you have a listing and you're trying to market for either to buy cash or to whatever it is that you're wanting to do and help them increase, create a sign rider, because that is marketing that all of the other neighbors are looking at. And if you're helping one, it's your best referral, right? Would you agree? Mm-hmm. So, these are ways that you can just use to take your existing business and help you get more business. You see these bandit signs off the freeway all the time that say flipping or whatever, and then they get taken down or cut off or whatever it is. This is the same thing. You've got a sign, you've got permission on someone's lot to put something on it, because all you need is, if you just think about it, if you got one deal a year from just doing this, that could mean an extra $50,000 or $60,000 in your pocket, right? That's what a lot of people make an entire year. And all you have to do is put an extra sign on your signs. So just simple things like that will help. Let me see here. All right, so this is the common size. And by the way, I'll if you guys text me, I'll email you the slides so you guys don't have to write everything down. But this is the most common places where most of these discounted properties come from. And so, if you notice, the common theme is most of them have, it's an issue for someone for something. Even in a probate scenario, if you look at someone who inherited a property, if their parents were already elderly, their life is now structured. They've got their own house. They've got, most places, they've already got kids. They're well established. This asset, right, it's an asset, now becomes a problem. So the highest likelihood of something becoming a listing, and when we were trying to create an algorithm to predict which houses would list next, right, because we're trying to buy, and the one that came up the most was a inheritance type situation where that house had debt on it, and their heirs already own other properties that also has debt. Because what that happens now is that you're now responsible for your mom's house, right, or dad's house, and it has payments. Now you can just let the payments go, it's not on your credit, but most families are like, no, hey, we gotta split this up. This is mom and dad's house. They grew up there, and now it's a problem. Now it's a headache for them. And now if they're on semi-fixed budgets, now it becomes an issue that they've got it, and they want to get rid of that. That particular scenario is the highest likelihood of getting listed within 60 or 90 days of that deal. That's the, by far, it's like clockwork. And you can understand logically why that would be. So the other ones here, it's the same thing. You got violations, there's vacancies, there's whatever. I'm not going to read them to you, but but there's a lot of them. And I put the silent generation of the baby boomers. Right now we have a scenario where, they're trading equity either to move out of state. California's gotten much more expensive, so but again, that issue creates an opportunity. And so that's really what you're trying to figure out. All right, so sourcing the deals. We talked about how peers kind of and they hang out with their peers as well. Real estate agents are no different. So as real estate agents, my guess is you guys know other real estate agents, right? Yes?
Yes.
All right, so when you've got that scenario, you know, there's a lot of other agents that aren't privy to doing this. They don't understand that process, or they don't want to. They're stuck in their way. They've got their formula, they've got their process, and they don't want to deviate because it's making them money already. So this is an opportunity oftentimes where you can sit there and go and network with other agents and try to buy the transactions from them. So most of my transactions, like we do almost no marketing directly to homeowners. All of ours comes, and they're just referrals. People like you would call me up and say, hey, I want to partner with you on this, you know, can you put up the money for this? Here's the scenario or whatever it is. And so, you know, I just tell you guys to do the same thing as well so that you can essentially network with other real estate agents that are out there. Some of the ways to find out who you should be networking with are this here. And so if you're looking on the MLS and you're researching like the keyword, let's say like the fixers, the TLCs, anything that's a fixer, what you're looking for is for homes that have been flipped. And so there's certain agents that just like you might door knock a neighborhood or farm a neighborhood, there's other agents that market or they farm a certain demographic. And whether it's probates or expireds or whatever it is, they have their process in place. So what I like to do for me is I try to network as much as I can with them because they're doing all of that footwork, right? So I don't need to reinvent the wheel. Plus it's easier for me to work with, let's say, 20 agents that already do that, and they're working with them, you know. So that's a multiplier that benefits us. So what happens is we go to them and then we try to partner. The same thing is you can go to them if you're seeing that they're selling the properties or they're to investors, then you try to be one of their investors. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So try to leverage other people's work product. Usually works out pretty well. Reach out to the listing agents, right? So if you've got the listing agents on these fixers, right, they're the ones who are going out. If it's a home that is already sold, right, and it got fixed up and then resold, do the research on that property as to who listed it and possibly who even sold it to that investor before. Sometimes it's the same person, right? If it's the same person, you know that their expectation is that you're going to relist with them on the backside. So offer that, like make that as part of your deal because you want to make sure that you want to end up with the transaction. Does that make sense? Okay, so the other things is MLS listed properties. If you wanted to find fixtures on the MLS, in fact, I called the owner of the company. He gave me a discount code for you guys that I don't have up here. So Prevy it's getprevy.com, I think is what the website is. But what this does is this searches the MLS and it values every asset that's on the MLS for possible upside. So it says, hey, here's a property that you could buy then and possibly fix up and resell, but there's equity there. So you can play with it and say, okay, I'm looking for things that have at least a 20% discount from their list price versus what they could sell for. This is an algorithm that basically they created, which has which values all the other assets around it and says, oh yeah, there's an opportunity possibly here. And so I called him up and got a discount for you guys. Let me find out the code or whatever it was he sent me here. All right, so
It's getprivy.com.
yeah, so so you'll go to http://intel and then getprevynow.com. So it's intel.getprevy, PRIVYNOW.com and then /ARH, which is the discount code.
Can you repeat that just one more time?
Sure, it's http:// Right, you know what, I'm gonna put it up here if you guys are all right with that. And it's intel, INTEL getprevynow.com /ARH. So it's getprevynow.com /ARH. Here, and I'll put it up here. Look at this. We'll do this live here. So I happen to know the owner, so that was the, so there you go. Oh, I did it wrong. All right, there you go. All right, so if you go there, they've got a lot of tools that are good if you're just trying to source, you know, like if you're working with investors and you're trying to source transactions or opportunities, that's a good start. The other one is an app, and I'll just pull up my app here. It's called Deal Machine. So what Deal Machine does is it helps you market to people, and these are just tools that investors use, right? So Deal Machine, great, I'm on 4G, thanks guys. Deal Machine is basically an app, right? And you're driving, and as you're driving, what you do is you push a house, it gives you the owner's information, phone number, whatever it is that you want. But also, you take a picture of the house, and then you hit save, and it starts mailing that house postcards. So we call that driving for dollars. And so anytime that I do a house, usually I just drive around the area because you're trying to get familiar with the area. I just take pictures, and it sends the owner essentially a postcard with a picture of their house. This was your house today. And if they don't live there, a lot of times it's like, holy crap, my house looks like crap, right? Other times they live there, and then it's homes that need work. And so at the point where you've built up, I'm gonna say 500 of these or so, and you've mailed to them 3 or 4 times, you'll start getting some calls. If you just do 1 or 2, don't expect a call.
Right.
But it's a very easy way versus coming down, having to do a mail order, having to do your own mail merge and everything else that does it for you. And it's really it's super simple. There's just that app. That's the app.
The app is called that.
Deal Machine. I'll reach out to them and see if I can get you guys like some sort of discount or something like that too. But anyhow, so these are kind of some ways that you can use to try to do that. Analyzing the deals. Okay, so here, I will say that in a lot of the cases when we go back and we analyze like why didn't we get this deal, our numbers were off somewhere. Sometimes if somebody had better information, the house needed less work on the inside, so we're estimating that it needs more work. Other times we maybe we're conservative, so keep in mind, most of these margins, you're working on like 8-10% margin, 12% margin, right? So if you're conservative by 10% on the value, it's just not a deal, right? If you're overestimating the repairs too much by 2% here, 5%, then all of a sudden it's just not a deal. So you have to try to be as accurate as you possibly can. And so the way I value properties, I always look at, here's my safe number. So at your safe number, you should be making a little bit of money, not losing money. My expectation, which is the number where I think we're gonna sell it for, and then there's the upside. So I don't just assess one value to it. I look at it 3 ways, every single time. And it's, okay, are we still gonna make money, but maybe not lose money, but we're okay? And sometimes you have to use that because in some areas, you're gonna be the highest comp when you go to resell. And so we're all beholden to the appraisers, right? So the appraiser is just some other guy's opinion, right? On that given day as to what he values the property. So we have to fight a lot of times with those, but more often than not, if you're looking at the value of these 3 ways, the upside oftentimes, especially right now, there's so much cash in the marketplace. We've got most of our buyers, I remember the last time we sold a house with under like 20 or 30% down. And I'm gonna say 3 out of 10 are sold to a cash person that's just a retail buyer that's just paying cash in every area. And there's just that much cash in the marketplace right now where they're either trading out of an old house and moving into a new one, they're either downsizing or whatever it is. There's a tremendous amount of cash in the marketplace. So just be cognizant that, that these are your buyers. And so when you look at the values and your after repair value, look at it and say, okay, here's my downside, here's what I think we're gonna end up with. And if we get lucky, here's the upside. Now, more often than not, if you're doing the repairs right, you market it correctly, you're gonna end up with the upside. So some of the techniques that we use to help us sell the houses are this. Is we sit there and, so if you ever look at any of our, how am I doing on time? All right, so when you're doing these listings, you've got, before it hits the market, after it's done, always stage it, all professional photos, But more important, what we do is we always list on either late Tuesday or early Wednesday, and then we put no showings until the following Monday. So that first open house, what happens is everyone's now, they've looked at your house. You know, if you're a buyer in an area, you're looking at every single new listing that comes up. So the way to create this buzz about your house is to not let them see it, right? So now all the buyers who want to see it, they go to that first open house on Saturday, and guess what? It's busy. I mean, our first open houses, we're talking 60 to 100 people that go through every single time. You know, in addition to that, we do Facebook ads, and Google ads for this particular house for the buyers in those areas. I'm sure you guys, if you don't know how to do that, you can YouTube it. But basically, that creates the buzz for that house. So most of the times, if we're priced right, we're getting multiple offers. And part of this reason is that you want to expose it to as many buyers as you can, and they're going to tell you where the market is. You know, the last one that we just sold, I think we thought we listed at 789, really tough getting comps above 800 for that price point, for that area. This was in Fullerton. Ended up selling for 836 to someone with was it 250,000 down, had 407,000 in the bank. Removed all contingencies prior to opening, no appraisal contingency, and they basically said, "Listen, we don't know what it's going to appraise for. We're happy, but even if it's 20 or 30 over the appraisal, this is the house we want." And so, like up front, now that all sounds great until they pay you, right? They held to their word, and it actually appraised for the 836. We got super lucky in that. In this particular, goes back to being an investor, right? There's a barrier street that was the other neighborhood sold for a lot higher, and we weren't in that neighborhood, but it was basically moving into our neighborhood. So we raised the comps for all of the other investors now in that area. But here's what also happens, right? If you know that this is just happening, start to buy other properties there as quickly as you can, because the comps for the non-rehab properties are still low, right? So that creates an opportunity for you. Let's see. This is just going to give you a percentage of the deals, and I'm running out of time, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. I didn't put numbers here other than just percentages, because the percentages work across most, price points. So if your ARV or your resale price is 100%, then you start backing off of that to figure out what you can pay for the house. So you want your net profit to always be greater than 10%. That's really the key, because if it's not, then you might as well just list it and not worry about all the extra work product or the extra risk or anything else. That makes sense, because you're already going to get, anywhere from 2.5% to 3% on your side, or 3.5% if you got a full commission, versus doing all this extra work product. So if it's got to be, again, it goes back to the win-win. If it makes sense for you, it makes sense for them, then you go in that route. So far as financing your flip, I'm happy to finance it, right? I mean, so I don't really sell anything for you guys other than, I'd love to get opportunities brought to me that I can either partner with you on, or where we can put up the money. In many cases, we'll do the work as well. Most of the people that wanted to come to us is because they want to learn about flipping, and so we're really training you to not need us anymore, right? And so part of it is the financing. So if you're using a hard money financing, the rates range from, I got here 1.5 points to 8 to 10% interest, to 2 points if you're brand new, or 2.5 points, something like that, is for hard money. If you're using a private investor, generally you're paying them between 8 and 10%. If you're using like bank lines or any type of partnerships, usually it's 1.5 points, 10% interest is the way I do it, is what we charge, and then we split the profits 50-50. And so that's kind of how it works for us. This is my information. You guys are welcome to take it down, and I'm happy to reach out. You can text me, call me, email me, whatever it is. And any questions, I'm happy to take your calls. If not, that is my time. And I want to thank you guys for coming out.
All right, thank you so much, Robert. To me, I mean, I've been in the business 22 years. Flips haven't been my concentration in my business. I know we've helped a lot of families in the past, where a lot of families, I remember back in the early 2000 to 2005, where a lot of the families didn't have money to flip their properties and the values were going up, and you were doing a lot of that with us in the Cerritos office. And it wasn't just one loan, it was hundreds of loans. It was hundreds of loans. So I want you guys to realize that the opportunity that it presents itself to work with Robert today is really endless I like the outlook that he has of not just looking at an investment just one way, but look at it this way, looking at it this way, and create a bigger possibility possible, and frankly, maybe be compensated differently, you know, in different aspects depending on the deal, obviously. One thing I know about Robert, and all the years that I know him, he's very frank. He looks at a deal, and he's gonna tell you right away, comps are not good, this is like this, it's not like that. So you're not gonna waste a lot of time. He's gonna tell you right away. Obviously, I didn't know that you were doing this since you were 17. So that is awesome. That's obviously his second nature. That's why he knows how to do. And you know, I already have some deals in mind that I want to discuss with you. I know we discussed one earlier, and he right away he gave me an answer. Like right away, I know exactly what we're gonna do with that deal, and you know, and I look forward to that. So thank you so much for being here. I know that we're gonna bring Cynthia. She has a news she wants to share with us because
2 minutes.
2 minutes. And